Hello folks, welcome back to Marvelous Videos. For today, we're diving into your famous comics yet again. The focus of our video today is John Jameson. Now, if you're a casual comic reader or just a fan of the Spider-Man movies, you will recognize John's famous father, Jonah Jameson, the reporter who hates our beloved friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. John Jameson flies under the radar when compared to his father. Let's shed some much-needed spotlight on him today. Now, before we go into explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The Adventures of Colonel John Jameson. Created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, the first appearance of Colonel John Jameson was in the Amazing Spider-Man comics. The son of Jonah Jameson, who runs the Daily Bugle, and Joanne Jameson, John is one of the youngest applicants to be accepted into NASA as a test pilot. John grew up without a mom, as Joanne was shot and killed by a masked man. Ever since that incident, Jameson distrusts all masked superheroes, and when Spider-Man shows up, he concentrates his hatred to discredit him in the media. He writes against the public performances of Spider-Man, whom he believes is the wrong ideal for children who should be looking up to someone like his brave son, John. On his first mission, orbiting the Earth, John loses control of the capsule he is in. Spider-Man is determined to prove himself to Jonah Jameson, who is on a tirade against him in the newspapers, calling him a menace who ought to be prosecuted and jailed. So he helps John land the capsule safely, but the next day Jameson spins the narrative in the newspapers, claiming that Spider-Man was the reason his son's mission failed in the first place, and it was an attempt to steal his son's spotlight. Now, during one of his later missions, John becomes infected with a mysterious virus while in space, which makes him inhumanly strong. Tony Stark and NASA developed a special suit called the Jupiter suit to help him regulate his strength. When Venom the symbiote frames Spider-Man for a bank robbery, Jonah Jameson asks his son to take Spider-Man down and become Captain Jupiter, a superhero. The virus inside him is so powerful that it starts wearing out his mind and body, but he pushes on to battle his father's foe, Spider-Man. Spider-Man effectively subdues him and gets rid of the virus in him by electrocuting John. A lunar mission and a lycanthropy. On his last astronautical mission, John heads to the moon to collect lunar rock samples. There he finds a glittering red gemstone that he becomes enamored with and brings it back to Earth. He begins wearing it around his neck as a pendant. On the first full moon night that he's back on Earth, John turns into a wolf. Realizing that the gem turns him into a wolf every full moon, John decides to take it off, but the gem grafts itself onto his skin. Months later, John introduces his father to his fiancée, Kristen Saunders, over dinner. Jonah rebukes John when he is in a coughing fit, asking him to take care of himself. After dinner with his father and fiancée, John goes back home and begins transforming into a wolf yet again. Almost on bestial instinct with no memories of his previous self left, John leaps into the office of the Daily Bugle and begins attacking Jonah. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, who has just lost his girlfriend Gwen Stacy in a scuffle with a Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, walks the streets in grief and comes across the new edition of the Daily Bugle. The headlines blame Spider-Man for the deaths of Stacy and Osborn, and filled with rage, Spider-Man decides to confront Jonah, but as he finds a werewolf in his office, begins fighting him instead. Manwolf, as he is called in the comics, knocks down Spider-Man and grabs Jonah. As they look into each other's eyes, a realization grows in both of them. Jonah looks at the red ruby around the werewolf's neck, and his realization that it's his son is confirmed. Manwolf escapes from the same window he came in, and Jonah stops Spider-Man from pursuing him. No longer angry, Spider-Man sits contemplating on a roof when Manwolf attacks him once again. During their fight, Spider-Man catches a glimpse of the red gemstone, but he doesn't recall where he saw it before. As the moon begins to set, the werewolf escapes. The next morning, Jonah goes to his son's apartment, and as he sees him sleeping with the same clothes the werewolf had on the previous nights, believes that he was the man-wolf that attacked him. Jonah demands an explanation, and John tells him all about the stone and its power to turn him into a wolf. Jonah returns to his son's apartment that night while John begs him to leave, as he begins attacking his loved ones when he is man-wolf. Jonah doesn't listen, so John knocks him out and runs out of the apartment where Kristen is waiting for him, as he didn't show up for their date. John is about to attack her when Spider-Man intervenes, as he has figured out that the werewolf might be the son of Jonah. With his super strength, he pulls the pendant off John, who turns back into a human and collapses. Spider-Man throws the gem into the Hudson River. The Moonstone. Is it a curse or a blessing? Morbius, the living vampire, finds the gemstone and with the intent to enslave Manwolf draws John into a warehouse. Under the power of the stone, John transforms into a werewolf and Morbius drains him of enough blood to knock him out and secure the red gemstone around his neck once again. Manwolf is completely under the control of Morbius, who intends to use him to find a cure for his vampirism. After Morbius is defeated by Spider-Man, he escapes and Manwolf is left to his own devices. An interdimensional savior. Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury offers to drop all charges against John if he goes on a space mission for them to re-establish communications on an orbiting space station. John agrees, and on the space station he finds 3 extraterrestrial humanoids named Garth, Lambert, and Gorjun, who claim to have come from the same dimension as the Red Gemstone. The portal to their dimension is on the moon, so John helps them get back to the moon, where he transforms into the Manwolf yet again. Taken over by bestial instincts, he goes through the portal into the other dimension, where he gets back to his human consciousness. People in the other dimension begin calling him Star God as they bow to him. John is confused and asks Garth and Gorjun for an explanation, who tell him that their previous leader, Star God, had weakened from age and he had opened a portal to the moon to spend his last days there. He had preserved his essence in the Moonstone, which would be activated by someone worthy. The transformation on Earth was only physical because of the distance between the dimensions, but now Manwolf had both the strength and wisdom to lead his people as the Star God. The residents of that dimension are under attack by a risen Tyrk, who wants to be the ruler of them all. John leads the people to battle against Tyrk with the sword of the previous Star God. Tyrk abducts Kristen to use as a human shield as John attacks, but at that moment, he realizes the complete power of the stone, decimating every member of Tyrk's army and obliterating the arm he is holding Kristen with. Peace reigns again in the dimension, and John sends Kristen back through Tyrk's portal to Earth. But Tyrk, who is not yet dead, closes the portal before John could get through. John harnesses the power of the gemstone and teleports back to Earth. A cure for the Manwolf. Now, back on Earth, John keeps turning into the Manwolf without his consciousness, and Jonah enlists the help of many doctors to treat him for his condition as the gemstone has begun poisoning John. The doctors are left befuddled, and their only solution is to keep John in a cryogenic chamber to slow the process till a cure is found. Now, let's rewind a little to know more about another character who is going to make an appearance anytime now. Spencer Smythe, a dedicated scientist, was hired by J. Jonah Jameson to get rid of Spider-Man once and for all. Smythe began working to devise the perfect instrument to take down Spider-Man, but he was unknowingly poisoning himself as he worked with a lot of radioactive particles. Jonah kept pressuring him to no end, and Spider-Man kept swinging around hale and hearty. Smythe, diagnosed with incurable radioactive poisoning, decides to take his revenge on both Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson by kidnapping John and releasing him from the cryo chamber. He implants a device in John that makes him obey every command of Smythe's. When John attacks Jonah, he manages to bring up his consciousness by talking to him about all the times he was proud of him as a father, but as he changes, the device makes him jump into the Hudson River, but he disappears before he hits the water. He reappears as Manwolf, but this time, Spider-Man and Dr. Kurt Connors helps him by removing the gemstone through radiation treatment. Shrinks, hypnosis, and transformations. John's new employer, Ashley Kafka, is a hypnotherapist who unknowingly convinces John again that he is Manwolf. As he begins attacking her, Spider-Man intervenes and ties him up, and Kafka tries to reverse the damage, but ends up making him transform completely into Manwolf. Spider-Man restrains him as Kafka finally manages to get through to his subconsciousness and reverses the transformation. Mad Jack, or Jack-o'-lantern, a hypnotist, who was hired by Jonah and later abandoned, is ready to seek revenge from him. He beats Jonah to a pulp and erases his memories of their encounter. With the help of Maguire, a robot cat, he hypnotizes John to smother his father, but Spider-Man shows up just in time to save Jonah and release John from the hypnotic trance. The Cult of Carnage. John's adventures do not end there, as he's injected by a mysterious potion by Alistair Smythe, Spencer Smythe's son, as vengeance against his father's death. Due to this potion, John turns into Manwolf yet again and goes on a rampage till he is shot. He becomes Star God to save himself, and he is able to transform into a wolf whenever he wants to and retains his human consciousness. He is sent to investigate the strange and unusual events going on in Doverton, Colorado. He finds out from the sheriff Eric Morel that many people and animals had had their spines ripped out. The common factor among all the victims was that they had all bonded with a symbiote, Carnage, when Cletus Cassidy had attacked him years ago. His investigation leads him to the Cult of Null. Before he can get a warrant to search them, Morel is kidnapped by the cult. He visits their church to find all the townspeople inducted into the cult. It is later revealed that the leader of the cult is none other than Carnage himself, and all the people are bonded to him. As he turns into a man-wolf, he too is infected with a symbiote. John wakes up a few days later with no memory of what happened, and Doverton in ruins. Misty Knight, who has been sent to find John, tells him about how Carnage and his accomplices slaughtered everyone in Doverton. On their way to New York, Carnage activates the symbiotic infection in John and takes over him. He rips off Misty's bionic arm and sends her as a meal to the newly awakened Demogoblin. Misty's arm has a sonic beam function, which she turns on to cause a distraction and escape. She then helps John overcome Carnage's power, and together they battle the Demogoblin. Powers and demons. As we've just explored, John Jameson has a lot of superpowers and inhuman abilities. Let's list them one by one. As a man-wolf, he has superhuman strength with which he could lift more than 4 tons. He has reflexes almost twice as fast as a normal human being. He is surprisingly agile, and he is faster as he outruns many superheroes, including our web-slinging fave Spiderman. Now, as a werewolf, he can recover from the deepest wounds within record time. His fangs and claws are capable of cutting through most substances like wood and cinderblock. Man-wolf also has superhuman smell, sight, stamina, and hearing. Although as a werewolf, he wasn't in control of his thoughts and had no human consciousness initially. After his experience in the other dimension, he is in control of his thoughts and has access to his intelligence. As Star God, he can obliterate anybody he wants to, and the gem gives him the wisdom and knowledge of earlier Star Gods. On top of his superpowers, John is a smart man and a skilled pilot. He is an experienced astronaut and is trained in hand-to-hand combat by the United States Air Force. Marvelous verdict. So this has been the numerous adventures of John Jameson. Although he was born without any powers and did not have any run-ins with radioactive insects, Jameson has had enough adventures to last a lifetime. Now, we barely scratched the surface when it comes to dealing with his adventures. If you want to know more about the colorful life of John Jameson and his other exploits, well, you better start digging into your Spider-Man and She-Hulk comics. That's it for this Marvelous video. What would you do if you ever came under the power of the magical red gemstone? Would you lead your people as Star God in a different dimension, or would you decide that Earth is enough for you and serve the people here? Let us know in the comments down below. If you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.